But for some unknown reason, he wanted to help Greg win the case, so he claimed to have left the documents taped to a power pole located on a small hiking trail near Greg's home.
Don't tell me he
Greg
went.
naturally found this whole thing pretty suspicious and decided to take one of his friends with him to the pole.
Okay, if you cause what do you mean? You gotta pick up this evidence in the middle of fucking nowhere, in at some pole, and then your response was, "That's kind of sus. I'm gonna bring my friend with me." That ain't gonna do nothing. What's good, y'all? We are back. We're gonna do a spooky video because I kind of want to start trickling out some spooky videos here and there. This is YouTubers that became murderers. So we're gonna just go ahead and dive right in and see who's getting crazy.
Suzanne Eaton was a 59-year-old American scientist who was working as a professor of molecular biology in Dresden, Germany. A big part of her job at this institute was to travel around the world and hold conferences on the latest developments in her field. In July of 2019, she traveled to the scenic Greek island of Crete for one of these conferences, not knowing that this was going to be her last, and that the person responsible for her end would be caught because of his videos on YouTube. The incident happened on July 2nd, when, after a conference, Suzanne spent time with her peers and played the public piano in the venue's lobby before saying her goodbyes and heading out to her hotel in the afternoon. Sadly, this was the last time anyone saw Suzanne alive. Her coworkers noticed her absence when she didn't show up for the second conference scheduled for 6 p.m. that evening. It wasn't like her to skip events out of the blue. Something wasn't right. A fact that became increasingly clear when over 24 hours passed without anyone hearing from her. So on July 3rd, her colleagues called the police to check on her, hoping she was simply sick or something similar. However, when officers arrived at her hotel room, no one answered the door. They acquired a spare key from the hotel management and went inside, only to find the room completely empty and undisturbed. All of Suzanne's belongings
So it
were
wasn't
also
while she
still
was
in the room.
home.
The only things missing
Wait, her
were her running
belongings?
shoes and a set of exercise clothes. Those who knew her immediately understood.
She went out to jog?
You see, in addition to her academic prowess and piano expertise, Suzanne was also an athlete at heart. She was a double black belt in Taekwondo, and despite her age, loved going on a run every day. Knowing this helped investigators narrow down what might have happened to her. Put simply, she likely went on a run soon after returning to her hotel on July 2nd, and something went wrong after that. She wasn't super familiar with the area, and to make matters worse, the weather was uncomfortably hot that afternoon. There was a strong possibility she collapsed from the heat or something else along those lines. After putting this together, the Crete police immediately dispatched a search and rescue team in the area surrounding her hotel and around popular running trails. Her family even traveled to Crete and put a €50,000 reward for anyone who could help find Suzanne. Unfortunately, Suzanne was nowhere to be found. That is until 5 days later, on July 8th, when two young men were exploring one of the abandoned World War II Nazi bunkers scattered across Crete. Around 200 meters in, one of them noticed a piece of burlap covering something on the ground. They picked it up from one end to see what was underneath, and what they found was the aftermath of one of the most horrific crimes in Crete's recent history. The burlap was covering the bloody remains of Suzanne Eaton. A later autopsy report discovered that Suzanne had several broken ribs, multiple fractures throughout her body, a missing ear, and much
What the fuck?
Whatever happened to her certainly was not an accident. The investigators began searching for clues, and fortunately it didn't take long for them to make their first major breakthrough: a set of car tire tracks leading up to the entrance of the bunker. Analyzing these tracks allowed investigators to find the car responsible for transporting Suzanne's remains to that bunker. It belonged to 27-year-old Yanis Paraskakis, a local sheep farmer. But when questioned, Yanis feigned ignorance and claimed that him driving through that area on that day was nothing more than a coincidence. He went as far as to say that he didn't even know about the existence of that bunker,
about Suzanne.
a lie that would eventually lead to his arrest.
Why?
You see, Yanis had a dream to become a successful YouTuber. He started a channel with his own name in 2012 and began posting videos. However, if you go to his channel today, all you'll find are 3 videos of him performing an ancient Chinese martial art and meditation technique called Qigong. That's because a couple days before Suzanne's body was discovered, Yanis deleted every other video on his channel. And once authorities recovered some of these deleted videos, it became clear why. You see, most of these deleted videos involved Yanis exploring abandoned World War II bunkers, including the one where Suzanne was discovered.
They would attract him then.
Gave the authorities the go-ahead to formally arrest him on July 15. It also allowed them to investigate him further, and the evidence they discovered was overwhelming. As it turned out, the land where this bunker was located was owned by Giannis's family.
Wait, he owns it?
Traces of Suzanne's blood in his car's trunk. When confronted with this evidence, Giannis cracked and told the whole story. According to him, he saw Suzanne running down the road and something came over him. He hit her with his car twice before putting her in his car, driving to the bunker, and ending her life there. He later changed his story to where he was compelled to commit this crime by a demon. Unfortunately for him, the jury didn't buy this one bit and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole in 2020. Now, this should have been the end of Giannis' story, but from what I've seen, there's more to his actions than just this one crime he was convicted of. The thing is, Giannis presented his vile act as a crime of opportunity, something he did completely out of nowhere. However, there's evidence to suggest that Giannis might be a full-blown serial killer. For instance, he was apparently detained by the police twice before, once for arson and once for animal cruelty, both of which are well-known early behaviors of serial killers.
Yep.
After his arrest, several other women also came forward, testifying that he had tried to run them over with his car as well.
So he just continuously tries to hit people with cars and kidnap and kill them.
However, the most solid evidence against Giannis is in one of the deleted videos he uploaded to YouTube. In it, we can see him showing some very human-looking bones scattered throughout the same bunker Suzanne was discovered in.
So those actually are bones, like real human
suggesting
bones.
They might have been removed by Giannis to hide evidence. But what makes this truly disturbing is what his friend says at one point in the same video. This roughly translates into, "Is this where you left that old guy?" Insinuating that Giannis had disposed of one of his previous victims in the same bunker before. And if that is the case, one can only wonder how many other people Giannis...
Because what do you mean his family owns a World War II Nazi bunker? Like, what the hell?
Simply Manic 6075 was a YouTube channel owned and operated by 24-year-old Samantha Wolford.
Oh, Lord.
She lived in the small community of Monticello, Texas, with her husband Ernest Lee Ibarra, aka Ernie, and their 5 children. She usually made videos about
they have 5 kids
and other random topics. Her story began in 2008 when she was at the lowest point of her life. She'd recently become the single mother of a pair of twins and had no love interest in her life.
Wait, what?
That's when she met Ernie, the single mother. Began in 2008 when she was at the lowest point of her life.
Oh, okay. She had 2 kids before meeting him
and had no love interest in her life. That's when she...
They look like they kill people. I was gonna say it, but I decided not to.
Eventually getting in a relationship and starting a family together. In one of her videos, Samantha described the day she met Ernie as the happiest day of her life.
Yeah, rest in peace to
Suzanne. They were blessed with 3 more children, including 1 more pair of twins. Raising 5 kids was a challenge, but Ernie made it work by taking a second job in pizza delivery. So, while they had endured tough times together, Samantha, Ernie, and their 5 children appeared to be the perfect loving family. However, while being a stay-at-home mother was all she could do at the time, Samantha still had a dream of becoming a famous actress one day.
I've always wanted to be an actress. I think it is so much fun. I've been extras in movies. I've had small parts in like short films. It is so much fun and it is so beautiful. It is one of the most amazing forms of art ever to be able to express yourself that way. I think it's amazing.
So, in October 2010, she created her YouTube channel and started posting videos, hoping to become a popular YouTuber and fulfill her dream on the internet instead. And things were going surprisingly okay in the beginning. Samantha would post new videos whenever she had something new to say. And while most of her videos struggled to get past 100 views at the time, the few viewers she had were enough to keep her going. But as time passed on, her passion for making videos turned into an obsession. She started spending more of her time on making videos than her family, putting even more pressure on an already stressed out Ernie. Around 2014, she also started accusing Ernie of hurting her in her videos, hinting at just how bad their relationship was going. But then, after posting a seemingly random video in March of 2014, Samantha mysteriously vanished from the internet. Maybe she lost interest in YouTube or just wanted to focus on her family again. No one knew exactly why she quit so abruptly. Then, on the 20th of February 2015, viewers finally received the update they were waiting for. Unfortunately, it was far more tragic than anyone could have imagined. It started with the Texas police receiving a call from one of Samantha's aunts asking them to save her niece's life.
Cause County 911, what's your emergency? I have a home invasion. My niece is tied up. I
I am at the verge of untying my niece at this particular moment.
Okay, she's tied up.
She is tied up and gagged.
And gagged? Is that what
Yes,
you said?
ma'am.
Is there anybody else there?
Where are the kids? We have 5 small infants asleep.
Apparently, 3 masked men broke into their home in the middle of the night and attacked the couple while they were asleep. The intruders then tied Samantha in her bedroom and after hitting him with a gun a few times, kidnapped Ernie. Samantha somehow managed to get her ties loose enough to call her aunt, who then contacted the police after arriving at Samantha's home herself. By the time officers arrived, Samantha's aunt had set her free from the restraints. The kids were fortunately safe as well. However,
so they broke in and attacked them, but only kidnapped Ernie? They even tied her up, but they only kidnapped Ernie? I don't know. Why?
what made this whole situation strange was that the intruders didn't take anything else from their home besides Ernie.
Yeah.
And from the people who knew him personally, Ernie wasn't the type of guy to make enemies with dangerous people. Put simply, investigators sensed something fishy with the whole situation. But all that paled in comparison to the main objective, which was to save Ernie as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Samantha didn't know anything that could give investigators their first clue. With no other option, the officers took Samantha to the station for further questioning, hoping to extract any useful information they could from her. But what none of them expected was that Samantha would change up her story completely after entering the interrogation room. Where before she didn't know anything about the assailants, now she had the name of a potential suspect, John Rebel. As Samantha's story goes, she was talking to her friend about
her
supposed
only her husband, and then she was able to call her
when
aunt while
suddenly
gagged
a
and
man
tied.
with a pseudonym
That's
John
another good
Rebel
point.
overheard their conversation and started talking about how a man shouldn't treat a woman that way, and that he was going to handle the situation. Well, as it turned out, the name John Rebel actually belonged to someone, a man named Jonathan Sanford. The police found and arrested John not long after Samantha gave out his name, right alongside his two accomplices, Jose Ponce and Octavius Rhymes. Surprisingly, Jonathan put up little to no resistance and immediately confessed to kidnapping Ernie. He also
So that did
confirmed the
happen.
worst possible outcome, that by the time the police got involved, Ernie was already dead. The three took him to a secluded forest and executed him with one shot to the back of his head. However, even after learning all this, one question remained. Why? Why would three men who didn't even know Ernie kidnap him from his home like that? Every answer to this question pointed back to Samantha, who kept denying any involvement. Even if the investigators ignored her suddenly remembering the perpetrator's name, there were several other suspicious aspects to her story. Like, how was she able to untie herself enough to call her aunt? Why didn't any of her neighbors hear the break-in? And why were the kids all sleeping in the same room, when usually they're scattered throughout the house? It wasn't long before investigators uncovered undeniable evidence of her direct involvement. This included instruction messages she sent to Octavius when the officers were trying to call Ernie's phone, which he had on him. These read, "Kill his phone, shut that down, ditch phone, move." There was no doubt about it at this point. Samantha was in colluding with her husband's killers. And as the investigation went on, the real story came out as well. Samantha had apparently become addicted to the idea of becoming a famous YouTuber, and her neglect of the kids became a constant source of fighting between the couple. But instead of resolving the issue like a responsible adult, Samantha colluded with her friend's boyfriend to hatch a cartoonishly evil scheme to get rid of Ernie. They first wanted to plant hard drugs in his car and get him arrested, but later made the heartless decision that taking his life would be much easier. There's also a chance that Samantha went with the murder plan because it would have brought her more attention on YouTube. She was eventually sentenced to 149 years in prison for killing her own husband, leaving her 5 children completely orphaned in the process.
That is fucking crazy. Yeah, you need to rot.
Diana Lovejoy was a successful technical writer living in the town of Carlsbad, California.
I was kind of thinking about that situation where, like, I think it was in like Australia or something, where somebody was trying to like poison her ex-husband and his family or something. So she told them that she had cancer, and then like they came over, but the husband couldn't make it, or the ex-husband couldn't make it, but his family did make it. So then she just poisoned them and killed them. And yeah, shit is 149 years. Why didn't they just say life? I don't know. That definitely is a weird decision, but so Ernie was legit a great person, literally just doing everything he could for his family, and she was a psycho who wanted clout. Keep in mind, he was getting multiple jobs just to be able to take care of all them kids, which 2 of the 5 were hers and not even his. So you mean to tell me he was sitting here paying the bills, taking care of 3 of their own kids and 2 of your kids, and you just fucking killed him? Oh my god. White people shenanigans. Yeah. Man, pour one out for Ernie though.
With her husband Greg Mulvihill. However, while her corporate job paid the bills, Diana's true passion was becoming a triathlon athlete and documenting her journey on video, resulting in her eventually starting her own fitness blog called Lovejoy Fitness and a YouTube channel by the name of Heavy DJ. She started this channel all the way back in 2008 and over the years used it to document various parts of her life. From meeting her parents after a long time to going scuba diving with her husband. At one point, she even tried to become a cooking show host of sorts.
Doesn't that smell nice?
Unfortunately, her channel never really took off, forcing her to eventually cut her losses and move on with her life in March of 2012. Or at least that's what it looked like from the outside. In reality, Diana's reason for abandoning her YouTube channel was kind of wholesome. You see, Diana and Greg had been trying for a baby for
I said they
years
both
by
look
this
like
point.
serial killers. I gotta apologize to Ernie.
Different miscarriages and was quickly
Ernie deserved better than what he got.
In September of 2012, the two were blessed with a perfect.
That shit smell unseasoned.
Marking an end to their struggle. However, what should have been a moment of celebration started a downward spiral of lies and betrayals, eventually culminating in an assassination attempt. Things started going downhill when just a few months after the birth of their son, Greg lost his job, leaving Diana as the sole breadwinner. The stress of the previous miscarriages, combined with the crushing weight of having to support a family in an extremely expensive city all on her own, spelled disaster for their marriage. It wasn't long before the two were constantly fighting with each other. Things escalated even further on July 9, 2014, when Greg returned home only to see a police officer waiting for him at the door. The officer explained that Greg wasn't allowed to enter his own home because, as it turned out, Diana had accused him of attacking both her and their son. What followed was a nearly 2-year-long divorce mediation, during which the investigators found no evidence supporting Diana's accusations, allowing Greg to get a 50-50 custody of their son. Diana was also ordered to pay $120,000 as a part of their divorce settlement in late 2015. But before the divorce could be finalized, Greg received a phone call from an anonymous number that changed everything. The voice on the other end claimed to be a private investigator Diana had hired recently. And according to this investigator, he already had solid proof of the attack claims Diana had made against Greg. But for some unknown reason, he wanted to help Greg win the case, so he claimed to have left the documents taped to a power pole located on a small hiking trail near Greg's home.
Don't tell me he
Greg
went.
naturally found this whole thing pretty suspicious and decided to take one of his friends with him to the pole on the night of September 4th, 2016. Sadly,
okay, if you cause what do you mean you gotta pick up this evidence in the middle of fucking nowhere in at some pole and and then your response was, that's kind of sus, I'm gonna bring my friend with me. That ain't gonna do nothing. Like, okay, how many like movies and shit do you be seeing like where they just bring their friend and then that don't change shit? Sometimes maybe, but if something fucked about to happen, you bringing your friend in don't mean nothing. It's no. First of all, if you want, like, no, you're not about to have me go to this secluded area to get this shit. We can do shit on the down low, but not in some random wilderness in the pole. No. And then on top of that, if it's like, oh, I got some evidence of this, and you think it's fishy, shit, I'd have the police go get it. Fuck it, I'm not about to go do that. That's for sure. Oh, hell no. Like, you can literally just tell the police, hey, there's this call to go here, but I feel suspicious. This is an anonymous number. Can you guys check this out? Then they can go and get it.
Despite his suspicions, he failed to grasp the true intentions of this strangely helpful private detective.
Hello, this is 911.
Yeah. My friend has just been shot.
Do you know who shot him?
There's a guy lying down like a sniper.
A sniper? Did you see him at all?
Briefly, we saw the gun, and he shot at us like 6 or 7 times.
When Greg reached the pole, a sniper opened fire on him, shooting him clean through the chest. Fortunately, the bullet missed his heart by mere inches, giving him a second chance at life. By the time the police arrived, the shooter had already fled the crime scene. But a quick survey of the area allowed the investigators to uncover a pair of towels the shooter left behind. Running a DNA test on these towels led to a man named Weldon McDavid, Diana's shooting instructor. Weldon tried to deny
Her
any
shooting
involvement at
instructor?
first, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. As after a thorough search, investigators were able to find another set of the same towels at Diana's place as well. They had also received CCTV footage of Diana buying the burner phone Weldon later used to
her instructor was hitting it from the back and then was like, all right, I'll take out your husband. I'm gonna go lay in them bushes and I'm finna start shooting. Like, if she kept having miscarriages and she was the only one putting food on the table, I can understand her crashing out, but this is absolutely not the way. Yeah. Because what the fuck? And keep in mind, the divorce was set. The divorce was set in stone. But she didn't want to do 50-50 split, and then she didn't want to pay 120K or let 120K go in his pocket. She'd just rather have him dead.
Greg into the secluded area. Most importantly, investigators also found the gun Weldon used on Greg, hidden in the rafters of his garage. By this point, it was clear that Diana was the one who wanted to get rid of Greg, likely to avoid paying the divorce settlement and keep full custody of her son. Diana and Weldon were arrested for the attempted assassination on Greg Mulvaney.
Look at her
and tried
ass.
for their crimes in November 2017. Both were found guilty, with Diana sentenced to 26 years to life and Weldon to a harsher 50 years to life. The only silver lining in this entire case is that Greg was able to make a full recovery and is now living with his son.
At least he survived.
The Gunnar Runar 87 channel on YouTube seems oddly wholesome at first glance. It's owned by an Icelandic boy named Gunnar Runar Sigthorsson and contains a single 3.5-minute video of him confessing his feelings to the girl he loves. The title translates to English as My Confession to Hildur. In it, he says things like,
Hún án efa sérstakasta manneskja sem ég nokkuð tímann hitt. Ég verð svo ótrúlega glaður bara að vera nálægt henni. Það þarf ekki meira. Og þetta ætlað þér því að ég held sig orðinn ástfanginn af þér.
However, this seemingly heartfelt love letter turned out to be the key to solving one of the most horrific crimes in recent Icelandic history. And it all led back to Gunnar and the troubled life he had as a child. You see, Gunnar didn't have a mother growing up, resulting in him getting extremely close with his father.
Man.
However, on the night of September 20th, 1996, when Gunnar was just 9 years old, his father decided to end it all using a gun. What made this already messed up situation even worse was the fact that Gunnar was in the room with his father and witnessed everything.
He watched it?
This took a heavy toll on Gunnar's mental health. He withdrew from the world and refused to accept his father's death as reality. Everything seemed hopeless for Gunnar. That is until primary school, when he met a girl named Hildur and instantly became infatuated with her. He'd admired her throughout school and into adulthood, but never found the courage to make a move, fearing he'd lose his only close friend. However, things changed in 2009 when Hildur got engaged to a man named Hannes. This gave Gunnar the push to do something about his feelings. But given his shy personality, he still couldn't confront Hildur directly.
You found out she was getting married, so you thought posting a little YouTube video was going to change her mind? I was gonna say that's a Viking-ass name, but it dawned on me that Iceland's where Vikings actually were.
So, in March of 2009, he created a YouTube channel and uploaded his confession on there. Hildur never reciprocated his feelings, but the two remained friends. Even Hannes, Hilder's now husband, didn't seem to mind Gunnar's company, something he likely regretted deeply just a year later. It all went down on the 14th of August 2010. Hilder was invited to a party that Gunnar was attending as well, but things got a bit out of hand and Hilder ended up drinking too much and passing out. Given their closeness, the task of getting her home safely was handed to Gunnar, but instead of dropping her off at Hannes' house like he should have, Gunnar took her to his own home. By the time Hilder woke up, it was already morning. She was understandably furious with Gunnar and immediately called one of her friends to drive her home, but nothing could have prepared Hilder for the horrific scene she witnessed on the other side of her front door. Her husband Hannes was lying on the top of the staircase near their bedroom, submerged in a pool of his own blood. She ran outside and called the authorities. Sadly, it was already too late. Hannes had received over 20 stab wounds on his body,
Holy
from
shit.
his arms and legs
28
to
stab
the back of
wounds,
his neck, and was long dead by the time Hilder found him. Given his condition, his death was ruled a homicide, and investigators wasted no time in looking for the killer. And while they initially suspected one of his business rivals of committing this horrific crime, it didn't take long for investigators to find Gunnar's video confession to Hilder and bring him in for questioning. Gunnar denied knowing anything about it and was eventually let go due to lack of evidence. Fortunately, not all hope was lost, because not long after that, investigators found a bloody shoe print next to Hannes' bed. Looking deeper into this print revealed that it belonged to a pair of limited edition Adidas shoes.
Limited edition.
At the time, there were only 18 of these specific shoes in all of Iceland, and Gunnar just so happened to own one of these pairs.
Damn, got your ass.
Again. This also gave investigators the authority to
wearing them limited editions,
resulting in them finding residue of Hannes' blood on his shoes, as well as in his car. Once presented with this evidence, Gunnar confessed to the murder. He also revealed that he'd been planning it for months, and even shoplifted the items he intended to use to avoid purchase records linking back to him. And while he didn't admit to it, Hilder also suspected him of spiking her drink that night, since she usually never passed out like that. After committing the crime, he also drove to a nearby pier and dumped items used in the crime into the sea to get rid of any evidence. It was a well thought out plan, since he was only caught because the garbage bag he used to hide his shoe prints tore open as he walked. As for his motive, it was just as everyone had expected, with him making it clear during the investigation, stating, "I loved Hilder. She was supposed to be with me. She was not supposed to be with him." Surprisingly, he was found not guilty during his first trial on March 1, 2011 by reason of insanity stemming from his messed up childhood. However, the prosecution argued that he was fully aware of his actions and escalated the case to the Supreme Court of Iceland. Gunnar was found guilty on this second trial and was sentenced to 16 years in prison. This was already lenient given the brutality of his crime, yet he ended up serving only half of that sentence as well. He was released under supervision in July 2019 and now works at a local warehouse.
He's free! Yo, that's crazy. They done went and freed him early. He didn't even finish his sentence. Man, pour one out for Hannes. All he did, he didn't do nothing wrong. He just, he bagged himself a nice girl and then got killed for it because old boy was freaking crazy as hell. Lock Gunnar ass back up. Yeah, he need to be back in there. I don't give a fuck if he ain't doing nothing right now. He need to serve his time. That's crazy. Hans knew Gunnar loved his girl, who was fine, still just chilling with him. That was weird. But man, because yeah, especially when it's like that level of proximity led to that situation. Because you keeping him around to the point where he was an option for bringing her home, kind of weird. Kind of weird. Yeah, and if this dude literally killed somebody for her, he might track her down in this day and age. Jacked up backstory, trying to get a girl. This is you on Netflix. This is you on Netflix, literally, y'all. He gonna turn into Joe Goldberg.